and why. We're going to continue our coverage here at NewsNation. I'm passing it off to Ashleigh Banfield, who will take up the coverage for NewsNation right now.
Chris Cuomo, before you leave, I don't know if you got the same flashback that I did today when we started to see these protesters breaking into the buildings on the Columbia campus. My volume was down on the monitor, and I thought someone was running old video of January 6th. It's exactly what it looked like when protesters were smashing glass to get into the Capitol and using their political beliefs to justify where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. And they do to this day. And I don't know if you had that same feeling that I did, but I was astounded at what I saw, and that's the feeling that I got.
Well, it was nice to not see officers getting their ass kicked like we saw on January 6th, and that these kids seem to have the idle the idle ambition of just taking over a building and saying they liberated it as opposed to trying to stop the certification of an election. But what you definitely see that is common in both cases is a collective decision that what they want justifies whatever they do. And then I thought it was no small irony that these kids, unlike what we saw on January 6th, because it's a different dynamic, is that they do that and then they ask for catering. They ask for food to be able to be brought in, so that they can be comfortable on the inside because they pay for a meal plan. And if that doesn't give you the sense of privilege that is underlying all of this, I don't know what should.
I did an honest spit take when I watched the top of your show tonight when you said, you rolled a soundbite of that protester saying that she could die of dehydration and that it is literally her humanitarian right to be fed while she occupies a building, which just, is... I can't even say it's laughable. It's just so astounding that this is supposed to be, if she is one of the Ivy League kids, that it equates her suffering with what's happening in Gaza, because presumably that's why she's there. But it does underscore, doesn't it, sort of the small-mindedness of what's happening on this campus.
Yeah, and I think, again, you got to point the finger. There's plenty of good things. We have 10. We have plenty of fingers to point. But the campus has to own a lot of this. They have discouraged dialogue. They have discouraged dissenting opinions. They have not allowed for balance. They are allowing a radicalized notion of far left understanding of the Middle East to take root. And this is what a lot of people are worried about. It's not that you're going to have an insurgency in the United States that takes us out. Frankly, we don't have enough, people of that culture and of that mindset to do that. It's radicalization of the majority, like we saw in Iran. That's why you have so many people from that community who are speaking out now about what they see taking root. It's malignant ideas that infect the majority, not a minority that takes down a society.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Beautifully put. And if I can just reflect on one of your guests earlier tonight, Scott Galloway, who's a New York University professor, also a business tycoon in his own right. He said that this is exactly what it looked like during World War II prior to the Holocaust, is that it was a thriving environment where gays had rights and were celebrated and students could speak up. And what did they do at the University of Vienna? They instead decried Jews as the problem, that they were as the reason for all of their problems. I know you have to go, Chris. You've already held the helm now for 2 hours. I so appreciate you sticking by so that I could just have a chat with you. I don't see you enough, my friend. Thank you for this.
I wish there were better occasions to bring us together, but it's always a pleasure to do the job with you.
Amen, brother. All right. Take some well-deserved evening off now. At this hour, 10:03 Eastern Time. These are live pictures, friends. Columbia University. You're used to tuning into my show to watch true crime. And I sadly have to report that live reporting tonight is our true crime, because crimes have been committed. Multiple crimes have been committed, and the boys in blue have shown up to say enough is enough. Effectively, what the university protesters decided to do was smash into the Hine building in the administration office and then, liberate it, which is what they yelled, but effectively just broke and enter. In my line of work, that is what they did. They broke and they entered. And we actually have criminal code that covers that. And effectively, what a lot of the people who did that are going to face is actually criminal ramifications. Whether it is going to be criminal trespass, which is a misdemeanor, maybe a year in jail if somebody really wants to clamp down on them, or maybe burglary. Because whoever did this, if they're in zip ties and being brought into the station, they're going to face potentially a felony charge of burglary. Now, I don't know how Columbia University views felons in their ranks, especially felons who commit felonies against their own school, but maybe that will result in expulsion. Maybe it will result in not getting their final diplomas or not getting their transcripts if they're not graduates this year, or maybe being told you're not welcome back next semester. Whatever it is, it's hard to believe that an organization would look at scenes like this and suggest nothing to see here. I really hope that in my line of work, the criminal prosecution has additional ramifications, and that is social ramifications, because this is not, as Dusty Cohen, who is, Cuomo's executive producer, said, this is someone's home as well. This campus is surrounded on all corners by residents and children. So to see all this happening is pretty traumatic for them too, even if they're looking out their windows and they're not actually on the rainy sidewalk. Just to get you up to speed, what we have seen here is the strategic response team of the New York City police finally coming in and clamping down on protesters who decided that their peaceful protests and free speech weren't good enough or loud enough. They needed to take hammers to the glass and start busting open windows and doors, smashing locks, and then occupying actual residential buildings and administrative offices at the Columbia University campus today. And then we saw, I think, what a lot of us finally expected we were going to see, especially after we heard the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, call for a stronger reaction to what they were seeing. We saw the SWAT teams respond. We are seeing arrests in real time. What we don't see is what's happening inside Hamilton Hall, which is where Rich McHugh, our correspondent here at NewsNation, is standing by live. Rich, you're our eyes and our ears, as well as adjacent to our lens. Just walk me through what you're seeing, what you're reporting, what you've gathered.
Sure. So we're at 113th in Amsterdam. Just beyond us, they have the police in riot gear. They have the police truck where they're putting the students that they've arrested into the truck. Here, the protesters all around are saying, free the students. They're up in arms at these police. The police aren't giving an ounce. They've been here for the past hour. Police went in through 116th, if you can see, just up the street, 116th in Amsterdam, into Hamilton Hall. Hamilton Hall, if you can see it, is the building that's lit up right there. That's the building. That's one of the buildings that they occupied last night. Columbia University just put out a statement just a few minutes ago saying they made the decision with consulting with experts, security experts this morning, that they had to take this step because it had escalated to such an extent. They also believe, they said in the statement just now, that the people that have taken over this building are not affiliated with Columbia University. They have reason to believe that some of them are not affiliated with Columbia University, which is something we've been asking about all along, and something that they and the New York Police Department have been asking all along. Tell the people who are not part of Columbia University to leave the encampment. Obviously, the crowd here is not happy that the police are arresting them. This has been a long time coming. 1968 was the last time I was a student here. Not then, a lot later than that, but the protest is in the lore of the buildings here. This has gone too far, clearly.
Yeah, Rich, don't go anywhere. I want to keep your camera live, and I want to read that statement from the university tonight, if we can. And I'm just going to ask our director to take the pictures up full, because these pictures are far more dynamic than watching me read. But here's the faculty, the statement that came from Columbia. It's called the Faculty Statement on Imminent Police Action at Columbia University. At this hour, the NYPD is massing on barricaded streets outside the gates of Columbia University. Columbia faculty have spent the day offering our help to defuse the situation on Columbia's campus and have been rebuffed or ignored. We have been locked out of our campus and have demanded to be allowed back in. We have been rebuffed or ignored. This is not new. Columbia faculty have attempted for the past 2 weeks to intervene in the situation, only to be shut out by senior university leadership. NYPD presence in our neighborhood endangers our entire community. Armed police entering our campus places students and everyone else on campus at risk. That is why university statutes require consultation with faculty, statutes which appear to have been ignored since April 17th and again tonight. We hold university leadership responsible for the disastrous lapses of judgment that have gotten us to this point. The university president, her senior staff, and the board of trustees will bear responsibility for any injuries that may occur during any police action on our campus. And again, that statement, very, very strongly worded, is from the faculty. It is the faculty statement on imminent police action at Columbia University. But Rich, get me up to speed. As I saw last reporting, there were 5 buses, I think, that were driving off with zip-tied protesters. Is that the number you're seeing, or have you seen more?
We're seeing more. So there were buses. I was over on Broadway, which is a block over. I saw buses come over here, and then I think there are more buses over there. There's similar protests to what I'm experiencing here. All the people here are saying, free the students. There's similar things going on Broadway, which is 1 block over. And so I think there are many of these buses that we are seeing. This is just where the police kind of set up. When they went into the building, they were prepping a few blocks away. They went into the building at 116th and Amsterdam, which is where the activity has been most of today. They closed every single entrance on Columbia all day today, and so anybody who wanted to get into Columbia had to go in through that entrance. And so this is where it all went down, because that is Hamilton Hall, where they had taken over. It's unclear if they've cleared it completely. I assume that they have.
Yeah.
Yes.
The big question I have is that, it wasn't, I think, an hour ago that there was a shelter-in-place message that was sent out from Columbia University's administration to the students, and this is, I'm going to read it. Shelter in place for your safety due to heightened activity on the Morningside campus. Non-compliance may result in disciplinary action. Avoid the area until further notice. It doesn't look from the pictures behind you and from the other lens that we're running live that everyone's heeding that message. But do you know of others who have?
Yes, I know a number of students. I called immediately when I heard that message, and they said, what's going on? So they're staying in their rooms. There's a lot of people that are staying in their dorm rooms right now. There's a lot of students that are off campus who are filling this area, who are clearly upset that these students are being arrested. I also know that the police were waiting for word from Columbia. They were always around the periphery, and then they finally said, I asked them about an hour ago, what's going on? They said, we finally got the letter, which I interpret as, we got a notice from Columbia, got to come in and help us. So that's what happened. And then they came up here and set up shop.
And then, so also explain to me, Rich, when the police arrived in the riot gear, you gave us a description earlier saying that there were like hundreds of police vehicles lined all the way up down the street, as far as the eye could see towards downtown. They began by infiltrating Hamilton Hall, as I understand it, by breaking through an upper-level window. Can you describe what it was that happened?
When the police went in, you mean?
Yeah.
From my understanding, from the little intel I got from the police before they did this, they were going in through 116th and Amsterdam, which is just up the street. That's the main entrance on the east side of campus. That's the only functioning opening on campus today, and where all the protests were. That was where they went in. That is where they pulled students out. They put them in buses, and then they've taken them through this area and over to Broadway and to other staging areas where other police are situated. Mostly, for the past 2 weeks, police have been on the other side of campus on Broadway. Today, operations kind of shifted here, I think, because Columbia shut down access to the rest of campus. So I think that's why everybody was centered here. I don't know if you can get a sense of just the scope of if we can turn the camera around, Jack, the scope of the people here that are clearly upset about this. adding, 10 more people come every 2 seconds here, and they're really not happy. They're yelling things at the police that we probably can't repeat on air, but the police are standing here steadfast in riot gear, and as they pull more students out, it's quite a spectacle.
I know.
An alum of
one
Columbia,
thing that
actually, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, one of the things I keep seeing, and maybe less of it tonight from the shot that's behind you, Rich, is how many of these protesters have covered their faces. And I know that there is a big hue and a cry among Americans who've been watching this, saying, if you're so proud of your message, why are you hiding your face? Have you been able to speak to anybody about that and ask them why? It's certainly not for COVID. What's it for?
I did. Several of them said we have immunocompromised people in the encampment, and then I said, come on. I asked a couple other people, and they said, look, we're afraid of being doxxed. So I'm like, that's the real answer. They're afraid that their identities are going to be exposed, and you wonder, why are you afraid of your identities being exposed? And it's very clear. Sorry, it's getting a little hard to hear. The crowd is building behind us, but yeah, most people that are in campus that were in that building that came out to do a presser today were wearing scarves and their identities were covered. The impression that I got when I watched it was that this was a slightly different group than we saw every day in the encampment. This was a more hardened core group of those people. And then the university just putting out the statement saying, we have reason to believe that the people that took over and occupied this building are not Columbia students. That kind of resonates with what I saw a few hours ago.
Well, we'll certainly find out, won't we, now that they are actually going to be issued summonses, and yeah. I think they call them, desk appearance tickets, but maybe more. I mean, if they took over that building by force with glass, if they disrupted, disturbed, or meant to actually disrupt, it could be burglary, and we will very well find out their identities and whether they're students or outside agitators, as I know often is the clarion call. Can I just ask you, with the megaphone that's going on behind you, that is what whips people up in the protest. Are the police trying to at least bring down the temperature by going after the people who are leading the crowds like this, especially the ones with the megaphones?
No. And if you take a look, Zach, show us the police. They're as stoic as you can imagine. They're sitting here facing this crowd of probably thousands among me, and they're not flinching, they're not saying a word, and they're getting screamed at and yelled at the whole time. So that's what we've seen here for the 2 weeks that we've been covering this. Actually, it's just the police are just sitting here at the ready, and tonight they went in as asked by Columbia University, and here they are, and now they're getting screamed at. So, wild scene.
I am curious about how many of those protesters would be prepared to stay once summer vacation starts and summer jobs. If they don't want to be doxxed, well, heavens, they probably don't want to lose their summer jobs or their degrees or their admission to Columbia. So I dare say that these protesters don't have the balls of protesters who were prepared to be hurt or even shot at, not just in this country, but in other countries. I mean, just to hear, I want my catering in the building I just broke into. I have a humanitarian right not to die of dehydration. Literally, that's a quote. I wanted to slap her.
Earlier this afternoon, we couldn't believe it. They came out and they were speaking to the press, where there's hundreds of us out here, and offhandedly they said, we'll accept food, we'll accept donations. I was like, did I just hear that? I'm not sure I heard that correctly, but there you have it, Ashleigh.
Also, just some quick new reporting I want to give you, if I can. Students are reporting apparently that their key cards have been disabled. Probably not a bad idea to stop, some of the bad actors, if it is, in fact, students, Rich. Rich, stand by, if you will, for just a moment. Do we have Brooke Schaefer available? I know Brooke is in the crowd somewhere as well. Brooke, if you can hear me, can you jump in and tell me what you're seeing?
Yeah, hey there, Ashleigh. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead and tell me what's happening around you.
Okay, hey there. So we've got a little bit of a different vantage point from Rich because we are just a little bit outside of the crowd where we can really see the massive police presence here outside Columbia University. We want to pan over and just show you all of the New York police officers that are right now holding their line there in riot gear, standing here as protesters are shouting at them, a lot of them saying, "Students, hold your ground," and "Free Palestine." I also want to, if we can, Greg, I want to pan over to show this way too, just down the street, because we have several blocks that are closed off here right now, Ashleigh, obviously, as all of this is playing out. And as we look down the street, I mean, we can see what looks like dozens, if not more, maybe hundreds of police officers that are out here right now. There is a bus here as well where it appears like they have been loading people up after arresting them. But this scene, I should say, incredibly tense, doesn't appear to be slowing down at all. These officers, though, holding their line as protesters continue to shout at them.
So can you give me, do you know where Rich is? And can you give me a sense, Brooke, of where you are in relation to Rich? Because it is a lot quieter where you are than where he is. Not to suggest that it's not going to get louder, because even since we've been on the air for 20 minutes, things have gotten a lot more heated where Rich's location is.
Yeah, Rich is not too far from me. We are just really sort of across the street, maybe half a block away from where Rich is. So he is really sort of in the thick of it, surrounded by those protesters. We wanted to get on the outside of the group to really be able to show you from an outside perspective of how many people are out here, but also how many police officers are out here, and really get a look at the manpower that is here right now. All of these police officers in their riot gear, preparing for things to get potentially even more tense.
Is there anybody around you, Brooke, and I don't want to put you in a situation where you could get into trouble with the police, but is there anyone around you who can talk to you about why they are staying where they're staying, given the phalanx of riot police, and given the demands of the university to amscray out of there, since this dynamic has completely shifted tonight?
We've tried talking to a couple of people, Ashleigh, off camera, and really a lot of people not necessarily wanting to talk to the media right now. I think you can imagine with how tense the situation is out here, a lot of people haven't really wanted to talk to us on camera. So after I go with you, I can try and potentially grab a few more people, but we haven't really been too successful in trying to get anybody to go on camera with us.
And again, from your vantage point, and I'm not sure if our director can take your shot and show if this is a shot that's your shot, I'm seeing a lot of people, yet again, with their faces covered. Your shot, I think, Brooke, is what we're seeing on the bottom left of our screen here. A lot of people with their faces covered. One person just fed a load of baloney to Rich McHugh saying, "We have immunocompromised people in our..." whatever. Have you heard the same garbage? This is COVID related. That's why I have a keffiyeh wrapped around my head.
Yeah, I've heard that not only here, but also last week I was in Austin, Texas, covering protests at UT Austin. I heard the same thing there as well. But again, this scene, we're watching it play out as it's getting incredibly tense. You can just look at the crowd of people that are here. And yes, like you said, Ashleigh, a lot of them either have their faces covered or are wearing masks. But an incredibly tense situation. Every once in a while, we hear, as we're sort of hearing now, we hear the crowds chanting. It appears they might be chanting because there might be some protesters who were arrested being loaded onto the bus that is out here. Of course, we're watching this all unfold live with all of you right now.
Are the arrests at least peaceful, or have some of the protesters literally got into scuffles and fought with the responding SWAT officers?
Well, again, Ashleigh, of course, this is very blocked off, this scene, so we're not seeing the arrest play out in real time. What we are seeing is the aftermath of when they have these protesters lined up in zip ties, loading them onto an NYPD bus that's out here. From what I have seen, these protesters have been fairly calm, lined up, just standing there really in silence, as the protesters and the demonstrators out here around them are the ones that are chanting. Right now, we have somebody out here on a megaphone saying "Free Palestine," and frequently they have been telling the students in the encampment blocks away, they've been yelling at them to hold their ground repeatedly. Yeah, it seems pretty calm where you are. I want to bring
Rich McHugh in just to see if anything's settled down over where he is. Rich, are you still on?
I'm not a student.
Can you still hear me?
And they won't let us on the campus now. So.
Yes, I can. Ashley, it's getting crazier. I'll be honest. There's more megaphone. There's more activity behind me. Every once in a while, it goes quiet like this, and you wonder why. I have a gentleman here who's willing to talk to us. His name is Larry.
Everest.
Larry Everest. Why are you here tonight?
Because it's outrageous that anyone protesting a genocide would be arrested, would be punished. They should be supported. I mean, that's the most basic thing you can do is oppose genocide, and yet they're being vilified as if they're anti-Semitic and if they're criminals and if they're violent. Today, Biden said, I'm all for protest, but oh no, you can't take over a building. That's not peaceful. He's sending 2,000-pound bombs to Israel that are killing children. I'm in support of these.
But to the students who go here and feel that this was in an inappropriate way, this was not the right way. They broke in, to this building last night. They say this is not peaceful, and so the Biden administration says there's clearly anti-Semitic comments and stuff going on campus. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, people have the right to their opinions. If that's how they want to feel about it, fine. But when I was in the 60s, the courageous students took the lead and seized a building where war research was going on. And a lot of people didn't like it, or it made them uncomfortable, or frankly, they didn't have the courage to do it themselves. And so fine, but it's the people getting out there, and the anti-Semitism charge is nonsense. These students, and I myself am Jewish, and I'm anti-Zionist. I'm anti what the state.
So your position is that the police should not be here tonight.
That's correct. For me, never again has always meant never again to anyone.
Larry, thank you.
Hey,
I appreciate.
Does that give you something?
Yes, thank you very much. So Ashley, I'm gonna toss it back to you. Obviously, a wild situation here. That's one perspective that we haven't been able to get on the air much, but there you have it.
Well, I appreciate Larry using his voice to say legally what has upset him over this political situation. I applaud that. That's exactly what America is all about. You can say that on the street without being arrested, beaten, or thrown in a gulag. What I don't agree with Larry about is that you cannot take a hammer to the glass of a building you want to occupy in order to promulgate your message about what's happening overseas. That's where we differ. And I wonder if Larry felt the same way about the people in January 6th who smashed open the glass doors at the Capitol. I wonder if he was, violently opposed to that happening. You can't have it both ways. I want to, if I can, Rich, going to take a break from you for a moment, but keep on IFB for me. I want to come back to you. Sure. I want to ask our control room. I want to go back to Brooke Schaefer quickly. Brooke, have you got an update for us?
Yeah, hey, Ashley, I apologize because I couldn't really hear the question you asked. I mean, obviously, we're dealing with a lot of emotions out here, so I wanted to bring in Patrick. He lives here in this neighborhood. He said he's lived here for about 2 decades. Seeing all of this play out, Patrick, we were just talking moments ago, a lot of emotions for you watching these protesters and these police in riot gear in your neighborhood.
It hurts that we have to get to this point. It just hurts. I mean, if you look, all of us, we're the same. We're just people. We're just human beings. And what we're doing is we keep separating and separating. When there's time in the world, we need to come together because we're all the same thing. And it just kills me because something's going to happen. Look at every protest at colleges. It's ended in violence. And people just don't learn. They just don't learn until it's too late. And
this moment, did you feel it was sort of inevitable that it was going to get to this point, seeing police in riot gear?
I've been watching this whole thing build up. For me, at first it started with the college not investing. That's how this whole thing, as far as I understand it. look where it's gone. It's turned into a whole nother Megillah. It's not about the university's money anymore. Now it's about us and them. And it's just going to keep growing and growing, and people are going to get angry. People at home are going to get angry. People here are going to get angry. And just to create friction, and it's just going to blow up on us. And then we'll say, oh, God, why did that happen? We've been doing it for 1,000 years. When are we ever going to learn? Anyway.
All these emotions, tell me, why'd you come out here to witness all of this?
Because the only thing, someone said to me, which side are you going to take? It's like, I'm not going to take sides. I just have to observe the choices that people make and probably know what the outcome's going to be, because they forget every choice, every action they make, there's going to be a result and a consequence. But people don't think it through.
And now here we are with,
Here we are. And I've heard this older gentleman come up and say, oh, you failed Columbia to these policemen. It's their job. You're paying them to protect us. How can you say that? And I'm not pro or against anything, but I'm just seeing them as, look at this woman right here, She might be a single mother with a kid at home, or a grandfather or an uncle. We don't think. We just think of us.
Patrick, thank you for chatting with us. So appreciate your perspective in all of this. Ashleigh, I'll send it back to you. But, as you can see, of course, so many emotions playing out in this tense moment out here.
Brooke Schaefer, thank you for that. Don't go anywhere. I want to keep your camera shot alive. If you can just tell your cameraman to pan over the action as it's happening so that we can continue to use your shot. Ahead. I'm going to come back to you shortly as well. I also want to bring in Russell Stewart. Russell is an emergency and risk management specialist with military security, investigation, search and rescue experience. Can you hear me, Russell? Russell Stewart, can you hear me? Not sure if do we have Russell on the line? Can we get, can you hear me okay, Russell?
Yes, I can. Thanks so much for having me on.
Okay. Great, I've got you now. I'm going to keep these live pictures up, Russell, and if you, with your experience, can basically walk me through the strategy of the response, of the police response tonight. Obviously, you're not there, but best you can with the images that we're bringing in live. If you can tell us what you think they would be doing at this stage, who they're going after, who they're not going after.
Well, look, obviously, the number one thing is I have to applaud our men and women in law enforcement. I think that they are not getting, as much credit as they deserve. They have been under the gun for several years now. And I promise you, every single one of these people in riot gear are always nervous about cameras in their face, doing the wrong thing, and their career is on the line every step of the way. I mean, number one is containment. They don't want to hurt anyone. They are all constitutionalists. They're cops. They want to have people have their constitutional rights to be able to have their voice heard. But in the end, the previous gentleman who I heard speak to say, well, I'm all out breaking into buildings. Well, that's illegal. And that's why the police are there, are to allow someone to have their constitutional right to assemble and protest peacefully. But once it engages in criminal activity, which includes obstructing someone's ability to walk through the campus, which I've seen campuses across our country where even students and faculty have been stopped from walking through to their own classes because someone says, well, that's not your right. Well, that's illegal. So the police are there to control the crowd, to maintain law and order, but to also give the protesters their space and to shut those people down that want to take away freedoms from others.
We watched as the police had to crawl in through a broken window to Hamilton Hall to respond to those who had broken the windows, broken the locks, and stormed that building, suddenly saying that they were liberating the building. I couldn't quite understand that, but it was literally an occupation. That's what that is. And we watched as the police responded this way. You can see the video that we got off of from Twitter. This is how they had to respond inside that building to those who had occupied the building. And now we are hearing that there may be more students, and I'm going to use this word lightly, trapped in another hall. I don't know if that means they're being barricaded and unable to leave the hall that they're in. If protesters have barricaded the hall and have kept people inside, I can tell you this. that is called kidnapping. If you barricade someone and refuse to let them leave of their own volition, that is kidnapping. If you move somebody from one side of a room to another side of a room, not of their free will, that is called kidnapping. And you could just ask, well, you could have asked O.J. Simpson. That's what he went to jail for 9 years for. So, Russell, I'm going to just jump away from you for a moment. I have to fit in a quick break. But when we come back, I'm going to explore and dig down on this report of more students apparently being trapped in another hall on the campus of Columbia University tonight as a severe and swift police action is underway to try to get control of a campus that currently is in chaos. Back in a moment.
We decided if anything happened to us,
we want you to take the kids. Oh, you guys.
Doesn't count. This is giving me the fuzzies. But what you need is a will. Trust and will makes it easy. For as low as $199, you can quickly create a state-specific, legally valid document that actually counts. What's cooking?
Twins.
Twins. Start your will at trustandwill.com and make it.
We are continuing to follow the live and breaking news on the campus of Columbia University. That's in northern Manhattan. Morningside Heights, if you know the island of Manhattan, usually a halcyon and pleasant place to be. Not tonight. For the last 2 hours plus, this has been the scene as there has been a swift and strong reaction from the NYPD. To be clear, the strategic response team of the NYPD responded to what looked like a pretty violent takeover of Hamilton Hall on campus. Protesters with hammers and cutters breaking into the building, breaking glass, and then occupying it while at the same time chanting that they were liberating it. One climbed to the rooftop and waved a Palestinian flag. That apparently was the tipping point. All of that action earlier today, the tipping point, and it resulted in what you're seeing. Hundreds of uniformed police officers, SWAT officers, descending upon campus. And we're not exactly sure of the number, but at least dozens of people zip-tied and taken away on multiple buses. At last count, 5, but our Rich McHugh said he reported many more that he could see, buses taking people who were arrested out of this scene. I can tell you this, police were playing an announcement over a loudspeaker, and they were directing it towards the protesters near the campus or on the campus and around the campus. And this is what it yelled. This is the NYPD. You are unlawfully obstructing pedestrian traffic. The announcement continued to say that if the protesters actually left voluntarily, no charges would be made against them. But if they didn't disperse, they would be placed under arrest and charged with disorderly conduct. So that's one charge you can expect to see among those who are zip-tied and likely will have to appear at Center Street. That is down where the Trump trial is actually taking place in Manhattan. They may end up seeing a judge tomorrow. They may get something called a desk appearance ticket, which is like a summons. They may have to return in 30 days to deal with the ramifications of it. It's not much. It's certainly not going to be a criminal record. But those who decided to smash open windows and occupy residence and administration offices, they could be looking at a possible burglary and certainly criminal trespass. Criminal trespass, weirdly, as sinister as it sounds, is just a misdemeanor, but it can take you into jail for a year. So don't let anybody ever say it's just a misdemeanor. But a lot of these people seem to be pretty peaceful tonight. We have not seen any violence either. I want to go out to Rich McHugh because, you know, Rich, it's interesting. When I came out to you before, things started to really ramp up and the heat seemed to be on around you. I could tell that you were a bit hesitant about what was about to happen. What's happening with you now? And has there been any change in the, I guess, just the volume and the angst amongst that crowd?
Yep, there's a little bit of a change. A lot of the protesters that are here just departed. They all went down to one police plaza, which is downtown. They said we want to be there to make sure that the police don't brutalized the students. That was one woman's verbatim to me just now. Police are still here. The students are still in the police truck, for all we can tell. There are still people milling about here. I want to bring in one student who has a really significant experience. You might have seen over the course of a couple days, there was a student waving the flag of Israel on campus. That was Jonathan? No, yes, Dave.
I'm David. I have a twin, Jonathan, who also does that.
So, describe for me your experience a couple days ago.
Sure.
And then also what you think about what's going on tonight.
Yeah, I mean, a few days ago I came out with just the Israeli flag because a lot of students, pro-Israel students, felt intimidated off campus because it's become like a mob and anarchy on campus. So I came out with the Israeli flag to show it's okay to support Israel. We were there for 1 hour. They stole our flag, a lot of these protesters. They lit it on fire, and my brother had a rock thrown at his head. So it got violent, and this was like a week ago.
Assaulted?
He was assaulted. We filed a police report. We're looking for the individual, but everyone wears masks, so they can't get in trouble. And we've been warning that like this kind of mob mentality that goes unchecked is going to lead to more violence, or it's going to encourage the crowd to do more erratic things. And we saw last night, I was on campus, it was just anarchy. They broke windows, they took over the Hamilton Hall, and then apparently there were a couple facility people who were like taken hostage, or it was just complete anarchy, and they lost control. And finally, the police came in. Yeah.
And so, what do you feel about the police response?
I'll say, I think it's about time. Like last week, the encampment was pretty peaceful, and I thought it was pretty fine. But after last night, it brought everything to a new level. Like they broke the law. They smashed in the windows. They took a couple facility workers hostage. And when you break the law, there has to be a sense of justice. And the sad thing is, the students are now saying, hands off our students. If you stand for a cause and you break the law, be prepared to face the consequences. They should they're acting very immature in my opinion, but I think it was time the police had to come in, and they're very brave, but they should face the consequences for their actions.
What did you do?
Anyways, but it was about time that Shafiq had to rein in the anarchy on campus, and it's time.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Brave too.
Excuse me, sir. Ashleigh, I'm going to throw it back to you because we have.
Why would you disparage people who are showing bravery?
We have some sort of
they didn't.
issue going on
it doesn't
here,
matter if they broke the law. The United States.
Yeah, you know what? Ask him to show his face, Rich. Ask him to pull his mask down so we can hear what he's saying. See if he wants to be on television with his face saying what he's saying. I'm really curious. Actually, ask him that.
He doesn't. He quickly walked away. He just walked away.
Right, because that's the unbrave way of protesting. Screaming anonymously at a live television camera. Right. Way to go. Okay, well, please mind your guest. I'm quite concerned about the safety of your guest, given what I have heard and seen in the last couple weeks about anybody who dares to say anything remotely supportive of Israel. There have been kids who've been hurt. One kid was poked in the eye with a flag, so just please be careful of that.
It looks like there's
and make sure Is he okay?
I don't know if you can see this, Ashleigh, but it looks like the police are they're moving everybody out. So he is okay.
While we watched. Okay, he's all right. I'm glad. Thank you. While we're watching this action behind you, Rich, I also want to just say that there is some breaking news. Listen to this.
Yes?
Yeah, it sounds like they're yelling shame, shame at the emergency vehicles that are leaving. While we're looking at Rich McHugh's live picture, Brooke Schaefer has jumped in a vehicle, and she's heading down to Police Plaza, where you just mentioned those who are arrested will be taken in processed. So I also want to say, Rich, here that WKCR Student Radio is reporting that the gates to campus at 116th and Broadway were opened, and that 5 white trucks that look like U-Haul trucks went through it. And they believe that they're holding the remnants of the encampment. There was reporting earlier, and Rich, back me up on this, that police had been seen going into the area in the quad where the encampments were set up, and had flashlights and were searching through the encampment. Is that correct?
That's possible. So where you're talking about is over 1 block away on Broadway, which is traditionally the main campus of Columbia. That has been closed all day today. When I came back here earlier, that whole entrance was blocked off, and it was sealed off like this with police around. So it's very possible the police did go in through that entrance as well and kind of start dismantling the encampment. I can't confirm that. All I can say is what we're seeing here, where it seems like the activity is happening, where they're pulling everybody out.
Right. We did have that one report that police had actually made their way into that quad where those tents were all set up and the encampments were occupying that area. And now we're hearing from student radio, again, it's WKCR, saying that gates were opened at 116th and Broadway, and 5 white trucks that look like U-Hauls coming out with what appear to be the remnants. Just want to listen in and hear what's happening here.
Chill out. Sorry, things are getting a little tense here between the NYPD and one of the people here, but the officers jumped in to quickly kind of diffuse it.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing in the back here, the ACLU has protest monitors. Have you seen much action from those guys?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Ashley. Say that again?
Yeah, I just saw the back of that guy's vest, and it was an ACLU protest monitor. Have you seen much activity from protest monitors out there?
I have not. I can't see it, but there's a bunch of police that are running to a different area, so I'm trying to figure out what is actually going on. Something's clearly happening.
Don't throw everyone under the bus.
Sir, stop.
You know what? Let me give you that. Let me give you that latitude right now, Rich. Let me release you to do some reporting. I'm going to squeeze in a quick break. I want you to figure out what that activity is. I also want to tell our audience that the radio station is also reporting that a team of college journalists are, quote, trapped in Pulitzer Hall. It is believed that Pulitzer Hall is the journalism school. Would make sense if it's Pulitzer Hall. They're being told if they leave, they will be arrested. The dean of journalism, the dean of the journalism school is apparently among that group, being threatened with arrest if they leave. And the reporting is that they're being threatened by arrest from police if they leave. It would be curious to hear if the shelter in place is part of that, but that's what we're hearing from WKCR, the Columbia student radio station. All right, quick break, and Rich is going to figure out what that flutter of activity was all about. We're back right after this. You're watching NewsNation Live coverage of the campus in chaos at Columbia University tonight as the police response is currently underway. By all accounts, our breaking news tonight, they are not resisting. So far, that's the story. As these buses of the NYPD pull out, apparently with numerous arrested students on board, they are zip-tied with their hands behind their backs. We don't know the number yet, but this was the reaction by the NYPD tonight. You will be arrested if you do not do as asked, and that is disperse. Many of these people who are out there peacefully protesting, not among them, but certainly among them, those who broke windows, more than likely, those who broke into buildings, those who refused the direction of the NYPD, as hundreds of riot officers descended upon the Columbia University campus tonight to break up what has become a violent protest, a protest with criminal trespass and burglary and damage. Criminal activity, not free speech. That's very, very different. To be clear, as we watched, there were numerous buses like this, more than 5. Our Rich McHugh reported 5 and then said there were far more than that later. But what's really good to hear is that the arrests have not been violent, that we've heard so far. It just sounds very heated and it sounds very electrified. But so far, things have been as peaceful as you could imagine. It certainly hasn't devolved. I say this because I came to air tonight realizing this Saturday is the 54th anniversary of Kent State. You know, kids at Kent State in Ohio decided to go out and protest United States involvement in Cambodia during the Vietnam War. And they were met with the Ohio National Guard, who opened fire on them. 4 students were killed. 9 students were injured. So 13 people were shot protesting in Kent State. I sure as hell hope things don't devolve into madness. This is not a good scene we're witnessing. People who decide to take on law enforcement like this, it will not end well for you. I just hope to hell you realize how badly it's ended for protesters before you. We have an inalienable right to speak in this country. You do not have the right to hit cops or break windows or damage property to be heard. You do not have the right to defy law enforcement. But this is what we're seeing currently, and there you go. She will likely be zip-tied and taken to one of those waiting buses. Those buses, by the way, are being led away to Police Plaza, where they will be processing the number of people they've arrested tonight. Again, it's been so, chaotic. It's hard to tell how many have been arrested, but certainly more than 5 buses. And there you are. There's the result of that woman giving a police officer a shove. That is, by definition, assault on a police officer. But Paul Callan knows better than I. Paul Callan is one of my oldest and dearest friends in this business. He is a criminal defense attorney. He is also a former New York City prosecutor, and he's standing by live. You're watching the same pictures that I am, Paul. What do you suppose is in store for the woman who decided to give that shove to police officers right in front of our cameras, and she's currently being processed?
She could be facing assault on a police officer. She could also be facing a charge of resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, depending upon where this started, criminal trespass. If she was in Hamilton Hall, burglary is a possibility, criminal mischief, which is damaging property. It also could be a hate crime. A lot of, I understand, Jewish students have been harassed by the prosecutors, and that could constitute a hate crime under New York law. So there's a huge variety of laws that the police and the district attorney can charge these demonstrators with. But whether that will happen, kind of doubtful. New York's